It's an excellent question, and one that can never be answered perfectly, but we're certainly going to try. We previously looked at the best and worst performing dividend ETFs for the year 2022. The single biggest piece of feedback on this video, aside from my need to invest in a chapstick ETF, touche, is that we cannot just look at 2022. We need more data. I agree. So let's take a look at both a 5-year and a 10-year history for each of the 13 dividend ETFs plus a new 14th ETF added at the request of the comments section. Is SCHD still king of the Pride Lands, or is there a better dividend ETF for the average Joe investor to invest in? Let's find out. Here is the previous spreadsheet we looked at, which was for January through December of 2022. And now I've built out a 5-year history, January 2018 through December of 2022, and a 10-year history for January of 2013 through December of 2022, for which we have data for all of the ETFs except for DGRW, NOBL, SPYD, and DGRO. We're going to look at two distinct investing strategies. One where we are already living on the dividends, aka we're retired or we've retired early, and then a second investment strategy where we are reinvesting all dividends to see how that impacts the results. And we could certainly make this analysis more dynamic by adding in contributions, but to make it as clean of an apples to apples comparison for all these ETFs, I decided for this video we're not going to do that. And we're also keeping track down here of which of the ETFs were the top performers with respect to dividend income, as well as portfolio balance, and the worst performer based on the 2022 review. This information is a legend for this data right here. Right before we dive into the 5-year review for 2018 through 2022, let's do a quick recap here for January through December of 2022. The top dividend income ETFs for this year were SPHD, PEY, and SPYD. From a portfolio balance perspective, and this is with reinvesting dividends, the portfolio balance top 3 were DHS at $107,000, HGV at $106,000, and PEY at $101,000. When we're just living on the dividends, as opposed to reinvesting them, the top 3 with respect to cash flow were SPYD, PEY, and SPHD. And with respect to portfolio balance, the top 3 were DHS, down here, HDV up here, and then third place, DVY. The big question here is, are these ETFs going to continue to outperform if we look back for 5 years as opposed to just 2022, which was largely characterized by a significant drop in the market? All right, first off here, 5-year review. First, we'll look at living on the dividends. All right, with respect to cash flow, the top result was SPYD at $21,639. Second place goes to PEY, $21,450. And third place goes to SPHD at $19,527. By far the worst performer of this group was SPHQ at only $9,323 for the year. And this was also the worst performing ETF in our 2022 review. With respect to portfolio balance, the top 3 results were number 1, VIG at $148,000. Then SCHD at $147,000 in balance. And then third place, $145,000, DGRW. And by far the worst result was right here, SPHD at $103,000. And through this whole time, living on the dividends, not making any reinvestments, our portfolio balance has only grown $3,000. Now, if we're living on the dividends, it should be noted that it's really cool that this investment that is continuing to pay us money is actually still maintaining its portfolio value. And if we didn't have all this other data from other ETFs, I would say, this is not that bad of an investment. But the truth of the matter is we have so many better options available where we can get just as much, if not more, cash flow, and we can preserve even more and grow our portfolio balance. And we should note here that even though this were the results based on portfolio balance, when we look at total return, which factors in the growth in the portfolio over the 5 years, as well as the cash flow that was received, the top result was SCHD. $66,658. Second place went to VIG at $60,000. Third place to DGRW at $58,191. All right, let's take a look now if we are reinvesting the dividends. First off, looking at total cash flow. Top result went to SPYD at $24,185. And this is cumulative income, by the way, for the 5-year period. Second place went to PEY, $23,945.90. Followed in third place by SPHD at $21,669. Worst result again was SPHQ at $9,704. With respect to portfolio balance, the top 3 results were number 1, SCHD at $173,312, followed by VIG at $162,918, followed by DGRW at $161,850. And then the worst portfolio balance was $126,576 for SPHD. And from a total return perspective, SCHD wins running away here. $73,312 compared to second place at $62,918 for VIG, and third place $61,850 for DGRW, and last place in total return, SPHD, $26,000. What's interesting is those 3 ETFs that were the top performing balances are nowhere to be seen now when we do a 5-year look back. Right here, we had DVY, HDV, and DHS, which were the top results for portfolio balance. And none of these made the top 3. In fact, they weren't even close. But then again, this is still only a 5-year look back. In reality here, the amount of cash flow we're receiving compared to the overall growth in the portfolio, there's still not a lot of time available for those dividends to grow and compound. Even 10 years is not quite enough time, but we get a lot more than just 5 years. So let's take a look at a 10-year review. January of 2013 through December of 2022. So the truth of the matter is we do nearly everything online these days. We browse social media, pay bills, and most of you in my audience are probably logging in and managing your investments. The last thing we want to have happen is to give hackers access to our portfolios and sensitive financial data, especially when we are out in public. I personally use a VPN to overlay my data connection at home and when out of the house, and you should too, especially when accessing your investment portfolio. This is where today's sponsor comes in, NordVPN. With NordVPN, you can shield your IP address and keep your sensitive data away from hackers. And with NordVPN, the process is easy. Simply log in and pick a server to connect to, either here in the US or abroad. You'll be connected in seconds. NordVPN has over 5,400 servers in 60 countries. And NordVPN is blazing fast. It's been confirmed by the speed tests. NordVPN is the fastest VPN on the market. You can use NordVPN on up to 6 devices and on every major platform: Windows, Android, iOS, Mac OS, and Linux. Even your Android TV supports NordVPN. Here's a special offer for my audience. Get a bonus gift on a 2-year NordVPN subscription, which will save you nearly 60% and lock in a monthly cost of only $3.35. It's risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. Thank you so much to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. And in addition to the data we've already looked at, total dividend income cumulatively, portfolio balance, total return, we're also going to look at, both with respect to living on the dividends and reinvesting them, how much was our annual cash flow in that 10th year in 2022, assuming we had dropped $100,000 into this investment back in January of 2013. And as a reminder here, there are 4 ETFs that we don't have data for because they just don't quite go a full 10 years. All right, first we're going to look at living on the dividends. We're not reinvesting any dividends. We're not adding any cash to the portfolio. What are the top results? First off, let's look at total cumulative dividend income for the 10-year period. And based on this information, the top result is PEY, which had $64,000 in cash flow. Second place went to SPHD at $56,911. And then third place, just eking out a result over SCHD, was SDY, which had $54,408 compared to SCHD at $54,255.61. Now, if we look at just how much income was received in year 10, okay, instead of cumulatively, how much income was received in year 10, the top result was for PEY, which earned $9,036.27 in cash flow, and right on its heels is SCHD at $8,849.74. And then in third place, we have DVY at $7,073.80. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, how did SCHD have so much cash flow in year 10, even though there are other ETFs on this list that have higher dividend yields? And the answer is dividend growth. You see, SCHD has really amazing dividend growth. Every subsequent year, SCHD pays a higher dividend. At least they have so far for their entire history of paying dividends. At least that's what they've done since they launched in 2011. So if the ETF is growing its dividend every year, that means your cash flow, your income is going up every year and you're not doing anything to cause that. And then the compounding dividend engine is really firing if you are reinvesting dividends during this time frame. Now, when we look at portfolio balance, we have fascinating results. Number one here at $273,000 was SPHQ. Very interesting. Second place goes to SCHD at $260,000. And then third place goes to VIG, the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation Index Fund. But when you look at total return, which factors in both cash flow and the growth in the portfolio, since we're living on the dividends right now and not reinvesting them, top result, SCHD. Total return of $215,000 over 10 years. Second place, SPHQ at $205,000. Third place, VIG at $183,000. All right, let's look at reinvesting the dividends now. First off, let's start with cash flow during this 10-year period. Top result was PEY at $79,997. Followed by SPHD, $70,000. And then third place, SDY at $66,000. Lowest result here, lowest cash flow by far, was SPHQ. And the reality is when we look at SPHQ, they are really focused more on growth in the overall portfolio, not so much on dividend stocks that have a high dividend yield. Now, if we look at portfolio balance here, which does incorporate reinvested dividends, the top result is SCHD. $354,000. And clearly here, looking at the results, they are really running away with it here. Second place, SPHQ at $325,000, and then third place, $315,000 with PEY. Worst result here with respect to portfolio balance was HDV at only $248,000. And when we look at total return here for the entire 10-year period when reinvesting dividends, top result by far was SCHD, $254,289 versus $225,000 for SPHQ, and then $215,000 for PEY. Worst result here, worst total return by far, HDV at $148,000. So it's interesting, guys, SCHD still wildly outperformed against the other ETFs, though there were some really high quality dividend ETFs that we should definitely explore, especially if they can complement SCHD. And clearly some of these ETFs that we thought were going to be pretty amazing that outperformed in just that 1 year in 2022, they didn't end up turning out that well over 5 or 10 years. In fact, when we look at DVY and HDV over that 5 and 10 year period, they end up being one of the worst performers, which really reaffirms we have to have a lot of data when we make a decision. We have to be informed investors, and we also have to account for what is our goal here. Are we trying to max out our cash flow, or are we trying to have a great balance between cash flow and portfolio balance? The biggest question mark we have when we look at these 13 and 14 dividend ETFs is, well, man, it'd be great if we could understand the underlying holdings and compare them to each other, because it could be that a lot of them overlap in many ways and some of them might complement them really well. Specifically, PEY, while it does have a little bit higher expense ratio, did perform very well. We may just have to explore further in future videos how some of these top performing ETFs complement or overlap with SCHD. But I'm still a strong advocate for and investor in SCHD. Make sure to leave your 2 cents down in the comments below. It's my goal to respond to as many, if not all, comments that are left on the day I post a video. That's all I got for you guys in this video. Have a great rest of your day. Hope you got a ton of value out of this video, and thanks for watching.